you or is it me? Lately I've been lost it seems. I think the change is what I need. If I'm looking for a chance or a dream, Charlotte Street. Taking time to hold my place. Yesterday's another place. Just living for the times we've seen. When the writing on the wall says I'll be Charlotte Street. If you want to find a way of searching for another world, it's hard to see.
This evening, explore the startling paranormal powers of the human brain and witness extraordinary feats. Can the incredible be explained by science, or will it remain beyond our understanding? Journey into the paranormal world of Paul McKenna, tonight at 8:30 on Yorkshire.
The new Grattan Spring and Summer collection is here now.
Don't miss your free catalogue. Call 0800 313 313 right away. If you're really in a hurry for your clothes, you can use our next day delivery service. What's more, you can have 20% off your first order. Get your free copy of the new Grattan Spring and Summer catalogue. Call now, free of charge, on 0800 313 313. That's 0800 313 313.
With Grattan, you'll be looking great.
I never really thought about where to invest my money, and I lost out as a result.
If he'd invested in a Save and Prosper high-yield PEP in 1987, his money would have grown by 121%. If you'd like to invest through our tax-free PEP, call 0800 50 50 20 now.
My hobbies include sailing, squash, and tax avoidance.
It can offer you a regular tax-free income and long-term growth. So if you'd like to invest, call 0800 50 50 20 now.
A new series of survival begins amidst the vast canyons of North America, where only the agile survive. The sheer cliffs offer shade, food and shelter to many. All they have to do is hang on. Cliffhangers, a new series of survival, Thursday at 7:30 on Yorkshire.
On Tuesdays this morning, a revolutionary new method to banish wrinkles has been developed using lasers. One woman is followed through the treatment. Fiona Armstrong has some tips on making extra money on the side and ways to transform your home with top interior designer Jocasta Innes.
So dryers on this morning.
At 10:35.
We've more fantastic stories and amazing tricks with Rainbow Days at 3:30, but now in Yorkshire we join ITN for the latest news with John Suchet.
Good afternoon. President Yeltsin's patience finally ran out with the Chechen rebels today. He sent in his troops to end the hostage crisis. Helicopter gunships pounded the rebels' stronghold and Russian commandos surrounded the positions where 100 hostages are still being held. From the scene, our Moscow correspondent, Julian Mannion.
The attack began at around 9 a.m. local time. Russian helicopter gunships blasted the outskirts of the village. Explosions could be seen among the houses, and smoke started rising from buildings set on fire. When we got close to the village on foot, the troops tried to keep us away from the scene.
Russian soldiers are still fighting for the edge of the village of Pervomaiskaya, well over an hour after the attack began. And the soldiers on the other side of this ditch here are becoming extremely angry at our presence.
A spokesman for President Boris Yeltsin says that the president believed that any further delay would threaten the lives of the hostages. But it's difficult to see how this operation can ensure their safety. Russian radio is now claiming that the Chechens have executed some 30 special forces soldiers that they were holding prisoner. There is no confirmation of this, but what is certain is that the surviving hostages are now in the greatest possible danger. Julian Mannion, ITN, at the village of Pervomaiskaya.
Here, the health service came under attack today in a new report into a series of killings and suicides by mental patients. The report from the Royal College of Psychiatrists found there was a striking breakdown in communication between different health professionals. The government reacted quickly by saying there was no evidence the number of homicides or suicides by mentally ill patients was increasing. A senior prison official has promised to look again at the policy of handcuffing pregnant women prisoners. It follows secret filming by ITN of prisoners in Holloway Jail in London. The Prison Services Acting Director General, Richard Tilt, said he would consider very carefully arguments that no woman should be shackled during labour. The Chief Government Advisor on School Curriculums said today children were not being taught properly the difference between right and wrong. Dr. Nick Tate told a conference in London that teachers should do more to give pupils a moral lead.
I think there's a very important distinction between the kind of political and religious indoctrination that obviously we want to avoid and transmitting to young people values that we've inherited from previous generations and that most men and women of goodwill adhere to.
Demonstrators against the Newbury bypass had the tables turned on them this morning after a string of victories last week. They tried unsuccessfully to stop workmen cutting down trees to prepare for the new road. Robert Hall reports from Newbury.
A show of force in the mist-shrouded woodland around Newbury this morning. 100-strong security force to escort the chainsaws and to seal 2 sites off from protesters. Initially, the ploy seemed to have worked. Contractors did succeed in clearing several hundred yards. But word was spreading, and within an hour, protesters had again broken the cordon, climbing trees and making determined efforts to reach the chainsaws.
I am now directing you to leave this location.
A public warning and a number of arrests had little effect. Although the contractors are expressing satisfaction with the progress they're making, they have something like 10,000 trees to fell along the bypass route. And the events of today are a clear indication of the terrain and the difficulties they still face. Their current strategy, whilst effective, is stretching resources on both sides to the limit.
On the early evening news, we'll have gloomy economic news. The building industry has announced 20,000 jobs to go by Easter. Join me, 5:40.
Hello and a very good afternoon from Calendar, and we start with news just in. A boarding school teacher has just pleaded guilty to charges of indecently assaulting pupils in his care. David Hope, who's 48, has admitted to charges of indecent assault, 1 of attempted indecent assault and 4 charges of stealing clothing. He was the head of music at Malsis School near Keighley for 17 years. He'll be sentenced at a later date. Health officials are pressing ahead with the vaccination of pupils at a school in Rotherham, despite a nationwide shortage of supplies. Medical staff have been immunising youngsters at Dinnington High School since first thing this morning.
That's fine. Just let your own relax.
These pupils at Dinnington High School are being vaccinated against meningitis all day today and tomorrow. The immunisation programme follows the tragic death of 17-year-old Christopher Vernon, a pupil at nearby Wales High School near Rotherham. 16,000 pupils have now been immunised in the Rotherham and Retford areas.
We'd like to extend our sympathies to our colleagues at Wales High School, who've really, they've really had a bad time. And I think the reaction of our people here is that they're grateful for all the effort people are putting in to get them vaccinated.
Obviously, it's a dangerous disease, and 1 kid in Wales has already died of it, so I think it's best to have the immunisation.
While medical teams round up these pupils, elsewhere in the country, supplies of the vaccine have completely run out. Fresh supplies have been ordered from Holland and are expected to be here by the weekend.
Judgment is expected shortly on the test case that could lead to thousands of miners who suffer from a disease known as vibration white finger being able to claim compensation from British Coal. The test case at Newcastle Crown Court centres on the argument that British Coal should have recognised the problems by the early 70s and so should have protected their workers. The complaint leaves fingers feeling cold and numb. If the court finds in favour of the miners, it could open the floodgates for hundreds of other claims. 2 businessmen are in court today charged with the manslaughter of the crew of a trawler which sank nearly 5 years ago. 17-year-old Sean Kelly from York and Adrian Flynn, who was 21 and from Lincoln, were both on board the Pescado when it sank off Cornwall. Joseph O'Connor and Alan Ayres of Plymouth face charges in Bristol Crown Court. Police have brought in a dental expert to try and identify the body of a young woman found dumped beside railway lines at the weekend. Her body was discovered clothed but badly burned at Burley Park Station near Leeds in the early hours of Sunday morning. She was white and aged between 15 and 25. But a post-mortem yesterday failed to identify her. Police have now begun a fingertip search of the area around the station in their hunt for her killer.
We need to know who she is quickly, because once we've established who she is, we can establish where she was and who she was with, and hopefully get to whoever's responsible for this atrocious crime as quickly as possible.
And that's almost it from us. A quick reminder, though, on calendar tonight, we bring you the schoolboy trying to break into the music business with a helping hand from one of our most famous groups. See you later. Bye-bye.
Try Polygrip Ultra. Polygrip's best ever formula holds dentures stronger, lasts longer than ever. We challenged denture-wearing actors to put it to the test.
I did, and it really makes a difference.
Without it, I'd have had to say no.
Traffic? No end of problems. Apples? No problem for me.
Polygrip Ultra and new Double Mint Polygrip Fresh. Try the challenge and feel the difference.
The three-piece suite and bed warehouse's biggest ever sale is now on. Massive savings of up to 50% on our huge range of over 3,000 famous name three-piece suites and 3,000 beds. Everyone with guaranteed same-day free delivery or free storage until required. Remember, for the largest selection at possibly the lowest prices in Yorkshire, don't miss the massive sale at the three-piece suite and bed warehouse. First floor, 66 North Street, Leeds City Centre, Kilner Way, Hillsborough, Sheffield, and Ings Road, Wakefield. Sale now on.
Here we go, it's 3:30. It's time for fun, it's time to see all our friends on CITV.
Ready? Super tiny!
There's lots of fun, songs, poems, and of course your favourite programmes when you join all your friends in the colourful and cosy world of CITV.
Having fun on CITV. CITV.
A very good afternoon, folks. Today is a very magical day for the Rainbow Gang.
Rainbow Day.